Chapter 20. Stalled. The weathered truck bounced down the pothole-filled road. Sandwiched between the two large men, Sky did feel like the little girl that the brown-haired man had called her. And why am I in the middle, anyway? Sky tried in vain to make herself even smaller. The men had ripped the sleeves from their t-shirts, so their smooth, powerful biceps and shoulders were bare. They were nice to peek at, but she tried to avoid contact with them. I guess I should just be happy the dead carcasses are not sitting on my lap. For a moment, Sky swore Darkhair had been thinking about bringing them into the cab of the truck. But after a brief hesitation and a regretful squint, he'd slung them into the back. Sky grimaced. Probably right on top of my stuff. Since social skills didn't appear to be the men's strong suit, Sky took the lead in introductions with a nervous timbre to her voice. I'm Sky Jackson from over near. Darkhair stopped her. Yeah, we know who you are. Oh, have we met before? Secretly, Sky tried to observe the man. Now he'd calmed down, she could see how handsome he was. She was sure she would have remembered him. And the ridiculously broad shoulders her eyes played along, despite his somewhat tattered clothing. On top of those, the man had an energy about him she hadn't quite figured out, but it reminded her of something left on the stove at a simmer. He darted a look out the side window. I seen ya around. Sky twisted her bracelets round and round, causing them to jingle. Well, that certainly clears things up. She nodded. I moved here a couple of years ago. I'm Tom Jackson's cousin. The cop, right? Yes. Sky second-guessed her decision to get in the vehicle when the men exchanged glances above her head. What is that about? Are they some sort of mountaineer outlaws? Since the men had yet to offer their names, Sky cleared her throat and prompted, And you are? With offhand tone and a wave of his hand, Brownhair volunteered, I'm Wade Cole, and this is my brother, Dylan. I can't thank you enough for the ride, Wade and Dylan. Sky searched for a topic that would interest them. She figured out one and said, So, is it hunting season? With bows? The brothers both turned to stare at her as if she was some kind of odd bug before returning their gaze to the windshield. Yeah, it's bow season, Wade said. Sky glanced down at herself. Do I look like someone who would keep up with that? What do they keep mistaking me for someone who knows anything about hunting? Sky gave up trying to find a subject they had in common, her mind turning to Jessie, and they drove in silence. Dylan grunted his approval that the small talk was over and sped along as fast as he could while missing the worst of the potholes. Wade stared out his side window. At one of the endless stop signs, the truck sputtered, coughed, and stopped. Another delay was more than Sky could take. Piece of junk, she muttered under her breath, frowning. She bit her lip when she realized they heard her. Don't insult their stuff. Hey! Watch it. Dylan growled at Sky, taking the affront to heart. He scowled at her, his blue eyes darkening with disapproval. It's just stalled. Dylan half hung over the steering wheel as he twisted the key a few times, getting nothing but more sputters. Sky stared at the ignition, willing it to work. She waited, her body winding tighter and tighter, as he turned it a fourth, a fifth, and a sixth time. I'm sorry, but I can't wait until you get it started. Excuse me. Neither of the men moved when she scooted closer to them on the seat, indicating she wanted to leave. Dylan paid her no attention as he worked, without success, on getting the truck started. Wade stared at his window, tapping his finger along it as he chased down a small, leggy bug. Please let me out of the truck. Jessie's house wasn't far from here. She would go back to her original plan of waiting outside the house until he came out. The men continued to dismiss her, and a wisp of fear went through her as worry transferred from Jessie to herself. She had gotten in this truck with strangers, and she knew better. Sky looked at them again, their muscular bodies, their hard expressions, their many weapons. She bit the inside of her lip. Her alarm over Jessie had led her to do something foolish. Panic edged her voice. "Let me out now." She gave each a hard nudge, but rock-like, neither brother moved. Dylan turned toward her and raised an eyebrow. "Just where do you think you're going?" Sky's stomach lurched, but a second glance to his face showed no threat. She let out a slow breath. Regardless, perhaps it was best to go now. "Dylan, I told you where I'm going. Now let me out." "Yeah, well, when you can get past us, you can get out. For now, you're stuck right here." Sky's eyes widened despite her efforts to stay calm. "Oh, excellent. The world is turning into a nightmare, and I'm either stuck with two of the bossiest men I've ever met or being kidnapped." She glanced over her shoulder wondering if she could fit through the truck's small slider window. "Besides, it's gonna start. It always does." Sky opened her mouth to reply, but at that moment, the truck fired up. Dylan gave her a triumphant glance that said he knew all along what he was doing. Sky rolled her eyes both at his haughty gaze, and the fact she was indeed stuck now. He ignored her irritation. Instead, he let a smirk curve one side of his mouth as he put the vehicle in gear and took off down the bumpy road.